Hello, thank you for tuning in for Art Rocks with me, James Fox-Smith from Country Roads magazine. When you think about it, it's pretty incredible that the city of New Orleans manages to throw what is probably the biggest party in the United States each and every year. We're talking, of course, about Mardi Gras. That enviable record can be mostly attributed to the efforts of the city's Mardi Gras crews, private groups of individuals who commit vast amounts of time and money to putting on Carnival's spectacular shows. And when it comes to keeping the parties going, no groups have done more over a longer period of time than have the crews of Comus and Rex. 2022 marks 150 years of Mardi Gras theatrics for the crew of Rex. So let's listen as Historic New Orleans Collection curators Amy Everett and Lydia Blackmore pull back the curtain and reveal the reign of Rex.
Mardi Gras in New Orleans dates back almost to our founding. It was always rather haphazard and nothing organized or official. We've got a letter in our permanent holdings from 1841, written by a young gentleman visiting the city who was not from here, describing celebrations. He talks about people masking, wearing costumes, dressing up like roosters and bears, and being carried around in a great iron pot. The first carnival organization was established in 1856 with Comus. Comus added some more organization, but they were a night parade and seen as being a little bit more on the wild side. In 1872, Rex was founded. Rex was distinctive in that they were a daytime parade, and they wanted to impose order on what they saw were unruly crowds and make New Orleans more hospitable for tourists.
Rex was established to create more of that industry of Mardi Gras. They advertised across the country for people to come to New Orleans. Rex and other Mardi Gras crews are intricately tied to the economy of Carnival in New Orleans. This watercolor behind me is by Boyd Cruz, who is a local artist here in the French Quarter. It's done in 1949, but it shows a historical Rex parade, and specifically it shows the Rex Boeuf Gras, which is the fatted ox of Carnival. That goes back to ancient Carnival traditions where you eat all you can before Lent starts. So Rex, when they started parading, actually paraded with a real live ox from the stockyards of New Orleans. Today it is a Carnival float with a papier-mâché ox.
There's a king and a queen every year. The King of Rex is publicly named, which is, I think, part of why Rex has been so enduring. Their membership rules are not secret. Comus is super secretive. There's a special relationship between Rex and Comus that has existed for many years. Their ball every year, Rex and Comus will meet. One of the annual traditions of Rex, the toast at the Boston Club. So they have these ties with organizations like Comus and the Boston Club that they have had for many, many years, and they continue to have.
Rex, the king of Carnival, leads the parade on Mardi Gras Day, is usually selected from the membership of Rex as a business leader in New Orleans, a social leader of their crew, and that person is known. So they announce who Rex is. That's unlike other Carnival crews where the king and the membership is secret. Rex's roles are open. And then they select the Queen of Carnival. The Queen of the Rex crew is a young woman, usually from a family of a Rex member. The doubloon was first thrown by Rex in 1960. They are the first crew to introduce the doubloons to Mardi Gras parades. And then doubloons became the go-to throw for almost any parading organization or any organization in the city. And we have the original designs for that 1960 doubloon and the original copper moldings to create them. Rex has quite a lot of fancy jewelry. We have crowns and scepters worn by previous Rex and queens of Carnival. These crowns are made with rhinestones and not fine jewels. These crowns and scepters, sometimes they pass down through the family and sometimes they come to us through the School of Design, which is the operating name of the Rex organization. There's some little jewelry that's colloquially called ducal decorations. They are the pins given to high-ranking members of the crew. All of the costumes and jewelry are owned by the crews, not by the wearers. Sometimes they are gifts from the crew to the wearer, but it is paid for by the crew. Parade bulletins were printed by the Times-Picayune and by other newspapers. They are intricate, detailed illustrations of the parade floats. So these weren't just given out ahead of the parade, these were given out as souvenirs or purchased as souvenirs of the parade so that people could take the images of the floats home and continue to look at them and study them and see their beauty and learn the stories or the mythology that was presented in the parade.
Each year, Rex sends out invitations to its membership, the families of their members and other people in high society. And the invitations are just extremely intricate and decorative and play into the annual theme of the parade.